Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Going the Distance. This is episode 44. Can you believe we've done 44 episodes? I can't, but I want to welcome the new members who are just joining us for the first time, and I want to welcome back the members who have joined me from the beginning. So we got a lot to get into. We got some NBA news, we got a little bit of tennis news, baseball news, NASCAR, football, and I got some music stuff to get into. So let's go. So first off, I want to talk about the NBA and the Golden State Warriors. It was reported that the Golden State Warriors almost drafted Bronny James, who is LeBron James' son, who we all know back when the NBA draft happened. Bronny James was drafted to the Lakers to play with his dad. And the Warriors came out and said the only reason they didn't draft Bronny James is out of respect for LeBron, because they wanted Bronny and LeBron to play together in LA. In my opinion, that's going to make LA better. It's not. But, I mean, it was worth a shot, and the Lakers are in a rebuilding year, so, I mean, anything can happen. But I just couldn't believe that the Warriors said, "Oh yeah, we're gonna try to draft Bronny James," and then we're not, out of respect for LeBron. Really, if you wanted Bronny, go out and get Bronny. He could play against LeBron, and then maybe in a year trade and send him to the Lakers. But if you wanted him, go get him. So that's just my thought. So now we're going to move into some tennis news. And one of the greatest tennis players, in my opinion, Rafael Nadal, who happens to be one of my favorite tennis players, announced that he's going to retire after his match in November, or his tournament in November. Now, he's been playing for a good little while, and I got to know Rafael Nadal's playing back, I believe it was in 2013, when he had a match against Djokovic. And that match was a 4-hour match, and it was one of the most exciting matches I've ever seen. Djokovic ended up winning that match, but Nadal stayed right up there with him. And Nadal's been one of the good ones. He's a 22-time Grand Slam champion. So, I mean, he's good. And he will be missed in the sport of tennis. So I can't wait to see what you do in retirement, Nadal. Do you go to the tennis channel and are you a commentator, or what do you do? So I'll be looking to see what you do there. Moving into some baseball news. The Cincinnati Reds are hiring Tony Francona as the new manager. Now, some of his former teams that he's managed have been the Philadelphia Phillies, is where he started his managing career. He was there from 97 to 2000. And then he got the managerial job, I think I said that right, with the Red Sox. And that's where I got to see him, because he was there from 2004 to 2011. And in that period of time, I was just getting into sports. And back then, it was the Red Sox and the Yankees as the rivalry. Now, there's still a rivalry today, but not, I mean, they don't talk much about it, because all the big players like David Ortiz for the Red Sox, Alex Rodriguez, Derek Jeter, all those, CC Sabathia, all those people have all retired and gone their separate ways. As we know, Rodriguez, Ortiz, and Jeter are on the MLB on Fox. But that's where I got to know Tony Francona as a manager, was with the Red Sox from 2004 to 2011. And then he took some time off. He signed with ESPN to do their Sunday Night Baseball. And then the Cleveland Indians fired their manager and needed a manager. So they hired Tony Francone from 2013, and he was with them from 13 to 2023. And then he was out of it, and then after his stint with the Indians, he backed away from baseball for a little while, and now he's signed with the Reds. They've got him in 2025. So he's a two-time World Series champ in 04 and 07. He's a three-time Manager of the Year in 2013, 16, and 22. So he's somebody to look out for, and he could probably bring the Reds into to be a winner. But me being a Red Sox fan and a Cardinals fan, kind of don't want to see the Reds do that well, being a Cardinals fan. But, we'll see. I'm excited to see how he does with the Reds. Moving into some football news, the Oakland Raiders are open to trading Davante Adams. Now, if you've been following, Davante Adams hadn't been happy with the Raiders for some time. And he was inactive last week, I believe the week before, and he's going to be inactive again this week. So, could he go for a trade? And I've also seen where Max Crosby, who plays for the Raiders, said, if Davante Adams goes, I go. We're a package deal. So, who knows what the future could hold for that. Jabril Peppers, who's a captain for the New England Patriots, was arrested on assault and battery and drug charges last week, and then earlier this week, he was arrested on Tuesday, and then on Wednesday, he was put on the exempt list, the commissioner's exempt list, which means he can't play. Which I don't think he ought to be playing anyway if he's assault, battery, and drug charges. I think the Patriots ought to just release him and go from there. And when we get into the scores, I've got some more Patriot news I need to get into. Excuse me. So just bear with me. So now we're going to move in to the Week 5 scores. I can't believe we've had 5 weeks of football, but we have. So starting last Thursday, we had the Falcons defeat the Buccaneers 36-30 in overtime. And at halftime, Matt Ryan was inducted into the Ring of Honor, which is like the local Hall of Fame. Every team has a Ring of Honor, and those are the names you see if you're watching football and see the names in the stadium. That's what you see. They had it for Tom. The Patriots did it for Tom Brady last year. So Matt Ryan was inducted into the Ring of Honor. Also that night, this was something that was amazing to me. That game was back and forth all game, and I thought the Buccaneers would have had it, but the Falcons defeated them. Kirk Cousins threw for 509 yards and 4 touchdowns. And that 509 yards passes Matt Ryan and breaks Matt Ryan's record. So, Kirk Cousins breaks Matt Ryan's record on Matt Ryan's night, which I thought was something. So, now we're going to move into Sunday. And Sunday we had a game over in London, and that was between the Vikings and the Jets. Now, how do we think that game ended up? That's right. The Vikings defeated the Jets 23-17. Now, Aaron Rodgers threw for 3 interceptions. And I saw something wasn't right there in the game. I saw something, just wasn't clicking right with Robert Saleh. He was just standing there with his arms crossed, and he was looking up. just looking just so dejected and just so like he knew something was going to go down. Well, on Tuesday, it was reported and confirmed that Robert Saleh was fired as head coach of the New York Jets. Now, how many of you guys, and I've been thinking a lot about this, I seem to think Aaron Rodgers had something to do with this. I think Aaron has some underlined agenda because Nathaniel Hackett is a coordinator. He's the offensive coordinator for the Jets. Now, Hackett was a coordinator for Green Bay back when Aaron was in Green Bay, and then Hackett got the head coaching job in Denver, and miraculously, when Aaron leaves Green Bay and goes to the Jets, Hackett gets fired halfway through the season, if that, by the Broncos and signs with the Jets. So I wouldn't be a bit surprised if Nathaniel Hackett isn't the next head coach of the Jets. But then I heard where Hackett had his responsibilities taken away. He's still on the Jets, but he's not calling the offensive plays for the Jets. So we'll see how that goes. But anyway, the Vikings are undefeated. They're one of only 2 teams that are undefeated right now. And we'll get to the other one in a minute. And I think we all know who that is, but we'll get to it. The Bears defeated the Panthers 36-10. Are we surprised with that one? I'm not. Here we go. The Dolphins defeated the Patriots 15-10. Now, I told you guys I had some news on this front when I got to it. So that was, not a game to really watch. It was just kind of go to sleep during that game. So Jacoby Brissett started for the Patriots, but then it was reported that, I believe it was Wednesday, that Drake May is going to start this coming Sunday for the Patriots. So people like me who have been calling for Drake May to start since the beginning, he gets to start this week. And I'll be really excited to see how the Patriots do with Drake May under center. I'm really looking forward to it. I think he's a great addition to the Patriots, and we'll see how that goes. In a shocker, the Jaguars defeated the Colts 37-34. Now, this was the Jaguars' first win of the season, which means now no other team is winless. They all have at least one win under their belt. So, congratulations to the Jags on winning your first game of the season. Don't know why it took you 5 weeks to do it, but here we go. The Cardinals defeated the 49ers 24-23, and the Cardinals actually came back to win that game. They were down, I believe, by 10 and came back to win. Much like the next game, the Giants defeated the Seahawks 29-20, where the Giants had to come back. I believe the Giants blocked a field goal and ran it in for the touchdown, but the Giants still had to come back to win that game. And in my opinion, this next game was the game of the week, and that was between the Ravens and the Bengals. Now, the Ravens defeated the Bengals 41-38 in overtime, but I have some stuff on that game that I'd like to share with you guys. So, in that game, we're comparing Lamar Jackson to Joe Burrow. So, Lamar Jackson was 26 of 42. He completed 26 of 42 passes for 348 passing yards, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions, and his passer rating was 119.9. That is fantastic, and that is one of the perfect games in my opinion. But Joe Burrow in this game. Now, this was a division game, but Joe Burrow came out and said, I have to play perfect in this game. So Joe Burrow, if you're ready for this, was 30 of 39, completed 30 passes of 39 attempts. He was 392 passing yards, 5 touchdowns, 1 interception, and had 137 passer rating. Now, that 1 interception came 3 minutes left in the game. If he hadn't have thrown that interception, which was in the end zone, that would have been a perfect game, and he would have had a perfect passer rating. And people wonder why I pull for people like Joe Burrow. That's the reason why. Because on paper, Joe Burrow is amazing. He came from LSU where he was successful. He went to the Bengals and he continued that success with the Bengals. And if I were to pick a team other than the Patriots or the Cowboys, I have Cincinnati in my top 5. Definite top 5, if not number 3 in my list, because Joe Burrow has turned that franchise around. Zach Taylor has turned that franchise around. And with the additions of having T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, they're unstoppable. And Cincinnati should have gone to the Super Bowl back-to-back years, but they couldn't have Kansas City playing Cincinnati back, in the Super Bowl and having Joe Burrow beat Patrick Mahomes, or as I like to call Patrick, Kermit the Frog. So, I think, the Bengals have a turnaround. Yes, their record doesn't show, how good they are. They're 1-4, but they always start slow, 0-3, 1-2, and then kick it into high gear. And I would love for the Bengals to make it to the playoffs this year. But anyway, the Ravens defeated the Bengals 41-38 in overtime, to me being the game of the week. Sunday night, we had a rain delay between the Cowboys and the Steelers. The Cowboys went up to Pittsburgh, or anybody knows what I like to call them. I'm not going to say what I call them, because there's probably kids watching. But after a rain delay of about an hour and a half, the Cowboys defeated the Steelers 20-17. And this was interesting because to start Sunday, the game started at 9:30 in London with that Minnesota Jets game, and that game ran from 9:30 to 1. Excuse me. Now, that Dallas game started at 9:45, almost 12 hours later, a little over 12 hours later, and ended at 1 a.m. So it was a definite full day of football. And the Vikings beat the Jets to start the day, and the Cowboys defeat the Steelers to end the day. So I call Sunday a perfect day with the Steelers, even with the Steelers losing, which I'm thrilled. That's why it was a perfect day. The Steelers lost. Can't go wrong with that. But then on Monday, it would have been an absolute perfect weekend had this game, the Monday night game, gone a different way. But as we all know, we can't have that happen. So on Monday night, we had this the Chiefs defeat the Saints 26-13. No big surprise. We all know the refs were on the Chiefs' side. And, people are starting to see that. Mahomes is calling for, a penalty call every time you turn around. The Chiefs are always calling for a penalty call. Andy Reid's yelling at the refs about something. I mean, it's getting kind of ridiculous. But Derek Carr injured his oblique. in that game, in the third quarter. So he was out through the third quarter of that game, which I hated to see, but it happened. But anyway, the Chiefs and the Vikings are the only two undefeated teams left in the NFL. Now, it's going to be breaking news when the Chiefs lose a game and are not even undefeated anymore. And I might just do a whole video on that if that's the case. But we'll see when that time comes. I think they want the Chiefs to be undefeated for a long time in this season. But I predict a surprise team is going to beat the Chiefs. I don't know who yet because haven't seen the Chiefs' schedule. But I think a surprise team is going to beat the Chiefs this year. So now we're going to move into Week 6 predictions. And Week 6 starts tonight at 8:15 on Amazon Prime with the 49ers and the Seahawks. I actually have the 49ers winning this game. I kind of had a back and forth. I like aspects of both teams. I like Purdy. I like George Kittle. I like Deebo Samuel for the 49ers. But I also like Geno and Tyler Lockett in Seattle. So 49ers, Seahawks. I've got Purdy, Kittle, Deebo, and the 49ers beating the Seahawks tonight. On Sunday, we have another London game starting at 9:30, and that's between the Jaguars and the Bears. I have the Bears winning that game. So now we move into Sunday afternoon, Colts-Titans. I have the Colts. Texans-Patriots. This ought to be interesting because I should have brought this up. Nico Collins has gone on IR for the Texans. So I still think the Texans are going to win that game. But with Drake May starting at quarterback for the Patriots, anything can happen. But I've got Texans. Bucs Saints, I have the Buccaneers winning that game. Only because Derek Carr is out. I think Alvin Kamara is going to have a big game, and I hope he does because I've got Alvin Kamara in my football fantasy. But I still have the Buccaneers winning that game. Something else interesting about that game is the Buccaneers are already in New Orleans because of Hurricane Milton. They evacuated and went to New Orleans early. So I think the Buccaneers are going to have an advantage because they've been there for a while and they're going to be comfortable with how just the atmosphere, and they're going to know what to expect. So Bucks, I've got defeating the Saints. Browns, Eagles, I actually have the Browns winning that game because the Eagles have lost 2 in a row. I think it'll be the Browns. Chargers and Broncos, I've got the Chargers. Steelers, Raiders. Can't pick the Steelers. Never will be able to pick the Steelers. So I've got the Raiders. Lions, Cowboys. This is going to be a good one, y'all. The Lions are 3-1. The Cowboys are 3-2. I've got the Cowboys winning that game. Even though I'd love both teams to win. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game, but I got the Cowboys winning that game. Falcons, Panthers, Falcons. Cardinals, Packers. As much as it pains me to say, I've got the Packers. The Redskins or the Commanders versus the Ravens, I've got the Redskins, Commanders in that game. Bengals, Giants, Sunday Night Football. I've got the Bengals winning that game. Now, that's going to be a good one because that's going to be the only game I'm going to see all the way through because I have to work this weekend. So seeing Joe Burrow, and if what I said about his stats from last week, if he can continue that this week, they'll be able to beat the Giants. So Bengals Giants, I have the Bengals winning that game. And then Monday night we have the Bills playing the New York Jets with the Jets having an interim head coach. So the Bills have a record of 3-2, and the Jets have a record of 2-3. So I have the Bills winning that game. So we'll see how these games end up, and I will be back with you guys next week to give you guys the scores from this week, and let's see how we match up. In fact, let's make it fun. Why don't we drop in the comments who y'all's picks are for this week? I've given you guys the games. If you guys want to go look at the games and predict it, I welcome the comments on that, and we'll make a game out of it. So you know who I got. Who do y'all have? So now we're going to move into NASCAR. And this week we raced in Talladega. And Talladega is always a good one. It's a restrictor plate race, so they always look for the big wreck. And the big wreck happened at the end of the race. But in the end, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. won. Brad Keselowski came in second. William Byron third. Kyle Larson fourth. Eric Jones fifth. Austin Dillon was eighth. And Chase Elliott was 29th. Now, Chase got involved in a wreck early on. That's why he was 29th. But this weekend, we are going to move to the Roval, which is in Concord, North Carolina, at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. It's a road course that they have made. They've made the road course, is what I'm trying to say. It's an oval track, but they've made it into a road, which is kind of weird, but it's kind of fun to watch too. So that's all I've got for sports news. So now we're going to move into the music segment of the show and what we're listening to. And I have some music news after what we're listening to. So who are we listening to this week? We're listening to 3 Days Grace. And they have been a band that I've listened to since I was in high school. They formed in 1992. I actually found out about them when I was in high school, so I found out about them in about 2003. I know that wasn't high school, but I'd heard them on the radio, but didn't really know much about them until high school. So I found out about them in 2003 with their self-titled debut album. They've had 7 studio albums, 26 singles, 18 music videos. They don't have a greatest hits or a live album. My favorite album from them is their sophomore effort, which was 1X, and that had songs like Animal I've Become, Riot, Never Too Late, Time for Dying, stuff like that. Songs like that. They had their original lead singer, Adam Gontier, left the band and formed a new band called Saint Aurora, I think was the name of it. And it was supposed to be a super group, and super groups are when artists from other bands form. Like Audioslave was a super band with Chris Cornell and a guitarist from Rage Against the Machine and that type of stuff. This Saint Aurora, or Argara, however you say it, was a super group with Adam Gontier. So Adam left 3 Days Grace to form this band. Well, it was reported last week that Adam Gontier is back with 3 Days Grace, and the lead singer that they had to replace Adam is still going to be in the band. Adam's just the addition. So I'm thrilled to see Adam back. I can't wait to hear the new music that they have. And if you guys want to go out and listen to the 1X album, it is a great album. But what we're listening to this week, what song we're listening to, is the song Never Too Late. It is an inspirational song, and it talks about never giving up. And, on my channel, I talk about never giving up and never, always striving to be the best. But this Never Too Late talks about never giving up. So that's the song we're listening to. So I said that we had some music news I was going to get to after those segments. And one thing we're going to talk about, or one thing I want to bring up, is Breaking Benjamin is hinting at some new stuff scheduled for release on October 16th, because during their shows, now they didn't do it during my show, but in recent shows, they've had 10/16 behind them. So they're hinting at something new and big on the 16th. So is it we're releasing a new album here soon? Is it a new single? What is it? Is it, a headlining tour? What is it? But I want you guys to keep an eye out, you Breaking Benjamin fans. Keep an eye out on October 16th to see what's new with the band. I know I'm going to be looking at it and figuring out, and can't wait to figure out and see what it is. Yesterday, on 10/15, October the 9th, it was announced that Disturbed, the hard rock heavy metal band, announces the 25th anniversary tour of their debut album, The Sickness. Now, I can't believe it's been 25 years. I remember when that album came out, it was a hard, Down with the Sickness was just a hard, rough, raw song. And that's how we were introduced to Disturbed. But that album had Down with the Sickness. It had a rendition of Shout from Tears for Fears. It had Voices. It just had a lot of, and that album was, just set the tone for their music for their career. But this kind of ties into the who we're listening to, because they've announced the bands that are coming out on tour with them for this 25th anniversary tour. And 3 Days Grace is a band going out on tour with them. So Adam Gontier has his first tour back with the band on this Disturbed tour. So the opening acts for that band are 3 Days Grace, Daughtry, Seven Dust, and Nothing More. So that's going to be a heck of a lineup. That's like Stained, Breaking Benjamin, and Daughtry. Being that type of tour. But with all those bands, I'm sure that start time's going to be at like 4:30, getting all those bands in. But if you guys check out Breaking Benjamin's new news on October 16th, and if you guys are Disturbed fans or bands of any of the opening acts on the 25th anniversary tour, go check out that tour. That's about all I've got for this week, y'all. I hope you guys have a good rest of the week and have a good weekend. And as always, since the hurricane, our thoughts and prayers are with Western North Carolina, which there's a benefit tour that Luke Combs and Eric Church are putting on for the victims, and to raise money for those victims of the hurricane in Western North Carolina. And victim's not the right word, but the disaster, the people who lost their homes. Luke Combs and Eric Church are raising money to help those in need, And that tour is on October 26th. They're doing a show at Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte, so check that out. So, again, I want to thank you guys for joining me. I hope you guys have a good weekend. Thoughts and prayers are with Western North Carolina, and I'll be back next week. God bless.